we shall start our discussion. So we'll offer a prayer and all of us can please repeat after me or can repeat together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna. So we welcome you all for joining us for today's session. We are talking about the subject matter that we started last weekend by the title of Gita Wisdom. And last week we had discussed the topic as Does God Exist? So all of you, I believe all of you had attended last time. In case if anyone of you are joining for the first time, you might refer to the recording of the first session. So this Gita Wisdom session is based on Bhagavad Gita, and the 5 key subject matters of Bhagavad Gita are discussed and are brought out in a scientific and logical manner for us to understand how the Vedic teachings and message of Bhagavad Gita is scientific and relevant even for today's generation. So let's do a quick recap of what we have discussed so far in the first session. So in our first session, we asked or we discussed, does God exist? And if God really exists, then what are the evidences? What are the scientific and logical evidences for the existence of God? So that was our initial discussion with which we started. And there we had seen 4 reasons or 4 logical and scientific reasons for the existence of God. Then we also talked about challenges. What are the challenges generally are put forward to people who believe in God? If you go and talk to somebody outside and you say God exists, sometimes people say, oh really, God really exists? Can you show me God? And the second challenge which is put forward is, who created God? So we had, we had elaborate discussion on this, about these 2 subject matters. And apart from this, after discussing these 2 challenges, we talked about how to gain knowledge about God, how to understand who is the Supreme Personality and how to gain knowledge about Him. When we started talking about the subject matter of gaining knowledge about God, then we talked about the 3 ways of acquiring knowledge. What are the 3 ways of acquiring knowledge? That is Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Now, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana, I'm sorry, I'm speaking of something else. The 3 ways of acquiring knowledge are Shabda Praman, Abhideya, Shabda Praman, Anuman Praman, and Pratyaksha Praman. Actually, it is the other way around. I wrote it as a SAP just to remember easily. So the 3 ways of acquiring knowledge are Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda Praman. Pratyaksha means seeing is believing. And Anuman Praman means speculation, hypothesis. And Shabda Praman refers to hearing from authority or reading in literatures or the books like that. So when we spoke about Anuman Praman and Pratyaksha Praman, the way we acquire knowledge is through our own abilities, through the utilization of our senses and so forth. However, we also discussed that there are 4 defects that every living entity faces. And the 4 defects are: the first, tendency to commit mistakes, tendency to be illusioned, imperfect senses, and cheating propensities. Now, if a person with these 4 defects, how can he find out about the existence of a God with this Pratyaksha and Anuman Praman? It's just not possible. So we had elaborated on the subject matter. And then we had discussed that God is beyond sense perception. So what is beyond sense perception? What is beyond our purview? We cannot understand through Pratyaksha or Anuman Praman. We can only understand Him through Shabda Praman. For an example, if somebody wants to find out who his father is, the easiest way is to go and find out and ask the mother. Ask the mother and mother will tell you. That's the best way of acquiring knowledge. And if you look at our own life, the most of the knowledge we have acquired is through Shabda Praman. We all have gone to schools and colleges. The teacher would come and tell us what is what. And that's how we have learned things. And then we'll read books. We did not research on our own to find out knowledge about anything. And that's how Shabda Praman is the most prominent. But with Shabda Praman, there are 3 fundamental questions or doubts that people have. that we had discussed last time. I'll briefly talk about it in today's session also, just to give a recap. Along with that, we discussed about three fundamental questions. The three fundamental questions about, we'll take a look just now, and definition of God. So what are the three fundamental questions? First question is, who created the universe? So when we discussed about these three fundamental questions last time, we had also discussed the answers from the science, what modern science says, and from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita or Vedic literature. So from the perspective of science, who created the universe? They say it's Big Bang theory. And we had discussed about it in length, so I'm not going to talk about it. And the essence is there was an explosion, and from an explosion, everything happens. So it's up to us, whom do we believe? Because with our experience, from explosion, nothing good happens. And moreover, this is not a scientific evidence because nothing has been proven regarding this. It is only a theory. What does Krishna say? Krishna says, Pitaham asya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. Krishna says, I am the father, I am the mother, I am the maintainer of this whole universe. That's what Krishna says. It's up to us whom we believe. We believe Lord Shri Krishna or the speculative theories. Second question, the fundamental question, apart from who created the universe, is who created all living beings? What does science says? Who created all living beings? The science says Darwin's theory, the origin of species. One species evolved into another species and like that, all that. And we saw last time when we discussed about this Darwin's theory, even Charles Darwin writes in his book that it is all his hypothesis, it is all assumptions. This is what he is speculating about it. It is not facts. It's not based on facts. However, we believe in this fairy tale story that how species evolved. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Krishna gives a very clear answer. Before that, even the scientists have challenged this Darwin theory because there are no scientific evidences available, as we discussed last time. And Krishna says it's very simple. Sarva yonishu kanteya murteya sambhavantiya. Sarva yonishu, all the living entities have come from me. I am the source of all living entities. That's Lord Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And the third and the last fundamental question is, who created life? From where did this life originated? And for that, the science or the scientists, particularly Richard Dawkins, he talks about in his Selfish Gene book or the paper published in 1976 that all came by chance. The chemicals got mixed together by chance, and that's how life came into existence. So we had challenged this theory last time that actually that's not the case. The genetic code that is there in each DNA and RNA is the most complicated code. And all of us know we all have different applications. You use Android smartphone or iPhone. There are applications there. And all of you know that somebody has coded that application. So how can this genetic code not be coded by anyone? So what does Krishna say? Who created life? Krishna says, Mamai Vamso, Jivaloka, Jiv Bhuta Sanatana. The Lord says, it is me. I am the source. Every living entity is my part and parcel like that. So in the essence that what we discuss is, choice is ours, whom we believe. We want to believe Lord Krishna as he speaks in Bhagavad Gita, or the speculators or hypothesis. This is just a quick recap of some important points from the last session. So what are the challenges with Shabda Praman? And this is the three prominent challenges that people have when it comes to hearing from authorities. What does Shabda Praman actually means? Shabda Praman, just like if we give an example, if somebody wants to find out about his father, then the person can go and approach his mother and find out who his father is. So if we want to find out about our Supreme Father, then Vedic scriptures acts like a mother to us. When we approach Vedic scriptures, when we study Shastras, then we understand who our Supreme Father is. And similarly, those who have studied scriptures, and when they teach us, that's what called as Shabda Praman, both from a person and from the Vedic scriptures. So the very first question or challenge which is put forward for Shabda Praman is, how do we know if authority is genuine and above four defects? Now, if scripture says, for example, now scripture says, so like Bhagavad Gita says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tum Sarva Papebhyo, Mokshami Mastra. Lord Krishna says, if you follow, if you surrender, if you follow my teachings, if you surrender unto me, I will free you from all anxiety, stress, and any of sinful reactions. you will have eternal bliss and happiness. In other words, the fact, if the authority is genuine, which means the scriptures as well as the bona fide person who's speaking the message of Bhagavad Gita, a scripture, is that we should be able to get the result which is given in the scriptures. By following the teachings of scriptures or by following the bona fide person, we should be becoming free from anxieties and stress, and we should be finding happiness and joy in our life. So that's what the proof is in the result. However, the scriptures mention there are three tests of an authority. First, the authority's opinion never changes. In other words, what the person or the bona fide guru speaks is the same thing what is given in the scripture. Has stood the test of time. It is not that something what was spoken 500 years ago was different than what is spoken today. And it has never been proven wrong. So today's topic is, are Vedas mythology? We're going to speak about it in a short while. And we're going to take a look at some of the scientific facts which are mentioned in Vedic scriptures. From the beginning of the time up to today, they've always been proven right. In fact, some of the things which science agrees today or science have proven to be correct is already mentioned in the scriptures long, long ago. So this is what is the definition of absolute or authority, or perfect authority. So when we talked about Shabda Praman means, as I said, the Vedic literatures as well as the Parampara system. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Evam Parampara Praptam, Imam Raja Rishayo Viduhu. Arjuna, if you want to understand the science, you can only understand the science coming in a bona fide parampara. And who is the original preceptor of this bona fide parampara? Lord Shri Krishna himself. Like this is the parampara in which we belong, which is called as Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Parampara. So if you see, Krishna gave this knowledge to Brahma to Narada, and so forth. This comes down to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada gave it to all of us. So if you want to know about our Supreme Father, who could be the best person to tell us who is he? Then he himself and his representatives. And that's the idea of Shabda Praman. The second challenge which is put forward in Shabda Praman is, how do we gain perfect knowledge? Because our senses are still imperfect, which is correct. And the example scriptures gives is, just like when you put an iron rod in a fire, what happens to an iron rod? Iron rod becomes as hot as iron. Similarly, when we come in contact, or when we come in association, or when we regularly read Vedic scriptures, or when we regularly associate with bona fide personalities or authorities, then all our imperfections go away over a period of time. In other words, we become pure, and then we are able to understand the truth as it is. And the third challenge, which is put forward for the Shabda Praman, is it not possible that I can approach God directly? Why do I have to have a middleman? It would be so nice if I can approach him directly. And the answer is simple. Krishna says himself in Bhagavad Gita, the means of understanding me is through Parampara system. And secondly, look at your own experiences and the education that you've got. You all have studied about Einstein's theory, Isaac Newton's laws and whatnot. Did you approach Einstein, or did you wanted to go and talk to Isaac Newton directly, and then only you would believe? No. Even the things that have been taught to you in this world are taught through the medium of teacher-student relationship. Teacher teaches a student, and that student later on becomes, some of the student becomes a teacher, and they teach further. And that's how it is. We can't directly approach. That's not the system. But if you want to try, you can try. But Lord Krishna says, don't try, it's a waste of time. So in essence, the conclusion of the session was that God is beyond sense perception, and we can only understand him through Shabda Praman. And that's where the question comes. Shabda Praman means the foremost idea is Vedic scriptures. We need to study Vedic scriptures. The question is, are Vedas really genuine? Because if you want to learn about gods, we have to study Vedas. But what we have been taught all this while, and through our education system, through social media, through news channels, through articles, print media, and whatnot, the Vedas are mythology, mythology, which means science of fiction. Myth means fiction. So they call it Vedas to be a fiction. So we're going to talk about it. Is Vedas a fiction or a reality? However, before we really get into the subject matter, today in this particular session, I want to talk something more fundamental. And the more fundamental or a more simpler question, which is the need of the hour that we all are looking forward to. And that question is, almost if you look around the world, the population of our world, as far as I remember, as I know correctly, is 7.2 billion population. There are 7.2 billion humans living across the world. Can you all guess what is the commonality between all of them? What is one thing that binds all of us together? What every single human being is looking for in their life? You want to make a guess? You can type an answer in the chat box. What do you think everyone is looking for in their life? What is their aspiration? What they want? And everyone is bound together by this single commonality. Let's take a look. Peace, money. Okay. And that's happiness, actually. Yes, some of you typed it correctly. That's happiness. In fact, for all our desire, even this be money, be fame, anything for that reason, the baseline is happiness. In fact, same desire for happiness even manifests in animals. Even animals want to be happy. In other words, animals, humans all want to be happy. And like that, humans and animals are alike, are same in the concept of searching for happiness. So, before we go ahead, question comes, what is the difference between humans and animals? Is there any difference? Because both of us are searching for the happiness. However, a side point, we all are searching for happiness. We all want happiness. I would not say searching for happiness. We all want happiness. But the question is, how many can claim that they have found happiness? And if they have found happiness, for how long? Imagine you have been desiring for long to get the newest iPhone model. You waited for 6 months for it. And now the iPhone model is launched in the market. And finally, after a week waiting for the delivery to happen, you got the iPhone. And after a month, the Apple announces launching the new model of iPhone. Would you be happy anymore? Or would you be thinking, oh, wish I could get the new model? So even if you think you are happy, how long are we happy? Anyways, let's come to the question of, if humans and animals are all looking for happiness, what are the commonalities? There seems to be some commonalities between humans and animals. So what are the commonalities between humans and animals? Any guesses that you can think of? You can be a little active on the chat box now, and you can, respond back onto it so we can make it a little interactive. There are 4 things which, according to Mahabharata, is said to be common between humans and animals. Let's take a look at those 4 commonalities. The first thing, these are acronyms. If you want to make a note of it, you can make a note of it. The first thing which is common between humans and animals is S, and S stands for sleeping. You all agree? We sleep, humans sleep, the animals sleep. Now the difference between our sleeping and the sleeping of the animals is the humans might sleep at the most expensive beds and the most palatial buildings. Animals may sleep, the birds may sleep in the nest, and dog may sleep on the street. But both have the commonality of sleeping. And think and ask for yourself, who gets a better sleep? Humans or the animals? I don't think so. There is a sleeping pill made for animals. It is the humans living in a palatial buildings are so stressed out and anxiety that they have to take a sleeping pill. That's the first commonality. That's about sleeping. Second commonality is E for eating. Humans love to eat and animals also eat. Now, when it comes to humans, they may say, I want to eat vegetarian, I want to eat non-vegetarian, and they have all the kind of different options of varieties and so forth. You know, it is said in Bengal, whatever is green, whatever grows in the plant and the tree, everything is cooked. And it is said about China, whatever flies, whatever crawls, whatever flies in the sky, whatever crawls on the ground, and whatever swims in the ocean is what they eat. You know, I hope you understood both the examples of it. Nonetheless, and look at in human society, how much we have been spending our time and energy on researching about the nutrient values and how to improve the quality, genetically modified seeds and whatnot. So much time and effort has been spent on just eating. And of course, the big hotels and restaurants and whatnot. And look at animals, they also eat, and the nature provides everything for them. You know, they don't have to work hard to grow plants and trees or the fruits. However, they are still provided, and they get it. They're not so much troubled by this. And the third commonality is between animals and humans is E for enjoyment. You know, they are looking for enjoyment. Similarly, humans are looking for enjoyment. However, for animals, what we call as an enjoyment of cohabiting together or cohabitation, they perform that act only when nature dictates them, not like humans, which sometimes in today's world, unfortunately, they try to do it in an uncontrolled manner. And not only the cohabitation is what humans are seeking after, looking after. Look at the different means and values that they have created for enjoyment. Look outside, there are pubs, there are bars, there are big cricket stadiums, there are movie theaters, there are movies, there are songs. So much time, so much energy of of humans are spent on discovering newer ways of enjoying life, and so much time gets wasted. And as we said earlier, are we truly happy even if we get those sources of enjoyment like that? And the last thing which is common between humans and animals is D for defense. So that makes your acronym called as SEED. This acronym is given in our Journey of Self-Discovery book, written by Raj Vihari Prabhu and another devotee. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name right now. So they, in Chapati, they do this Journey of Self-Discovery course, 7-day or 5-day Bhagavad Gita course. From there, these acronyms have collected. So D for defense. Animals have their claws, they have their teeth, they try to protect themselves. Similarly, humans, they have life insurance policies, you have rules and regulations, you have security cameras, you have advanced weapons, nuclear weapons and whatnot. If you see in humans and animals are not seem to be really worried about all the four things. They're not spending too much time about it, and somehow their basic needs are fulfilled. Look at humans. All our time and energy in today's modern advanced society is just focused on how to improve the sleeping, how to give a more comfortable environment and situation, how to give a better facility for eating, how to give more and more different ways of avenues for enjoyment, and how to protect ourselves from all the dangers. Despite of all these attempts, we still have new novel viruses and novel threats coming every alternate years. So, in basic desires, if we see, we are same with animals. So, are we really an animal? Are we like that? Or there is something different than us? So, question comes, what is unique with humans that animals don't have? So, we are common in Ahar, Nidra, Bhai, Metronome. So, what is unique? All of you can type in the chat box if you think humans have something unique than animals. And what is unique between humans and animals are four things. There are four things that makes humans unique over animals. The first thing is A. A stands for ability to inquire. They can ask questions. They can ask, why am I suffering? Why do bad things happen to good people? Does God exist? And so forth. To give you a small example or a story, you all know of Buddha, Gautam Buddha. When he was born, the Pandit or the chief priest of the king had already forecasted that your son is going to become a great saint. He will take sannyas. The father, the king, got really worried because that was his only son and he wanted him to become the king. So king ensured that Buddha, the Gautam, did not see any realities of the life, which we're going to talk in some time, the realities of life. And he ensured that Gautam only saw happiness and opulence everywhere. So like that, Gautam grew up. And when he grew up, of course, the father cannot restrict the son into the palace. Now the son demanded that he want to go out of the palace. And as some of you might have heard the story, when Gautam one day, somehow managed to escape the prohibition of his father and went out of the palace, when he went into the city, he saw an old man. When he saw an old man, he asked to his Sathi or a charioteer, hey, what happened to this? Who is this? So he said, this is the old man. He said, what do you mean by old man? Gautam even didn't know what is an old man. He said, my dear sir, when you grow old, you will also become like him. So Gautam was shocked. He said, oh, I would also become old. Then they went further. Now, ahead when they went, Gautam saw somebody sickly, deceased person. Until today, Gautam had not seen anyone in a deceased condition. So now he asked the charioteer, what happened to this lady? And he said, this lady is suffering from so-and-so disease. So Gautam asked, what is diseases? And disease is something that we come across here and there. It's a kind of a suffering. So Gautam was surprised. They went further ahead, and then Gautam saw a dead body. Until today, Gautam had not seen a dead body happen. So he asked the charioteer, "What happened to this person? Why everyone is crying?" And the charioteer said, "Sir, this is your and my future. In future, all of us would also be lying on a deathbed like this, and our relatives would be crying." At that point of time, Gautam became really worried and in anxiety. He said, "Really? I also have to suffer like this?" And that was the beginning of his transformation because he inquired. Animals cannot inquire. So in today's society, humans are using this ability to inquire only about the four basic needs that we discussed. That is a seed. Everyone asking, how can I sleep better? How can I eat better? How can I enjoy? And how can I protect myself in different ways? But that is not the function of ability, function of this inquiry. Our ability, the gift of inquiry, should be used for asking, how can I access the higher levels of bliss? And what is that? We'll introduce you in a brief minute. So that's the first unique feature, that ability to inquire. What is the second point? Second point is B stands for bliss. Humans, as a humans, we have access to different degrees of happiness. Happiness exists in four levels. I will tell you in a short while in the next slide about the happiness. Let's take a look at C. The C, which is unique to humans and to animals, is C is the choice. C stands for choice. The humans have an ability to make a choice. All of you might have gone to a restaurant and so forth, and you might recognize when you go to a restaurant, the waiter comes and he says, "Sir, what would you like? What do you want for a starter? What is the main course? And what is the dessert?" And then you look at the menu and then you suggest this and that and different options. Animals don't have choice. They act on instinct. But as humans, we have choice. And that's the reason we are supposed to live a life of live life responsibly. And the next and the last unique feature that humans have over animals is D. What does D stand for? D stands for determination. Determination to inquire about the higher levels of happiness. Determination to inquire and search out for spiritual truth or absolute truth. Determination to make right choices in our life. That's what determination. Animals don't have. Animals act on instinct and they don't have all these abilities. So humans are designed for this ABCD. Humans are not designed for seed, what we discussed. These are the basic needs, of course, even animals have. So let's talk about happiness or bliss. In a human life, we can experience happiness at four levels. All of you have an experience of it, at least of three levels. First is B. B stands for happiness at bodily level. You know, when you eat something delicious which you like, you feel happy, isn't it? But the question is, can anyone say that they can they can be truly happy only on the bodily level? Because to be truly happy or to be really enjoying the body, our senses should be strong forever. I see some of you already have a specs, and the moment we take out the specs, we cannot even see properly. So our senses are limited, and as we grow old, senses become weaker. So we cannot enjoy forever. Secondly, let's assume somebody has got perfect senses all through the life. But for him to enjoy, he need to have unlimited resources. That is also not possible. So that's the reason the bodily pleasure is limited. And that is why today's generation is so frustrated, so depressed, because they don't understand that there is a pleasure higher than the bodily pleasure. What is a pleasure higher to a bodily pleasure? And that is E. E stands for emotional. What is emotional pleasure or emotional bliss? And that comes in with relationships. When we have good relationship, you would have an experience if you have met a friend of yours after a long time. You don't even remember about your hunger or a thirst. You continue chatting with your friend for a long time. And that is about emotional pleasure or emotional bliss, which is at a higher grade than the bodily pleasure. But this is also not unending. This also has a limitation. All of us have an experience that we do get into some relationship crisis. And whenever there is any friction in relationship, our mind becomes very agitated. So this is also not forever. The third level of pleasure or happiness that human beings have access to is I. I stands for intellectual happiness. And perfect example or a recent example of intellectual happiness is Abdul Kalam, ex-president of India. He was asked, he was an ex-scientist also. He was asked, Abdul Kalam ji, why did you not got married? He said, I entered my research lab at the age of 17. And when I came out, I was 70-year-old, which means he was so absorbed and, in this whole intellectual activities, which means problem solving and so forth, that he forego his emotional pleasure, he could forego body pleasure in terms of eating, sleeping, and all that. And that's what intellectual pleasure is, more higher than bodily and emotional pleasure. But still, it is not forever. It also has a limitation. Only there is one pleasure, which stands for S. If we are able to gain access to it, that is what gives us unending bliss for forever. In other words, it's an eternal happiness. And what is that S stands for? And that stands for spiritual bliss. And this spiritual bliss can be accessed once we have established our relationship with the Supreme Lord. We don't have to even wait for establishing relationship. Once we begin the process of reawakening our love for Godhead, once we start the process of establishing the relationship, from that time onwards only, the person can begin to experience spiritual bliss. And as he progresses or she progresses, the nature of this bliss is such, it keeps on increasing and increasing. And that is what is the goal of human form of life. This is not available for animals. And that is what the Vedic scriptures teaches us, to look after spiritual happiness. So the goal of human life is to access unlimited spiritual bliss and not to stay focused or not to just ask for bodily pleasures. So what makes human beings superior to animal? That's what we discussed so far. ABCD is what makes humans superior to animals. And this is the verse from Mahabharata, based on which we presented these ideas. And the verse goes like this. Ahara nitra bhayamaithunam cha samanyamitat pashubhira naranam dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharme nahina pashubhi samanaha. It says there are four commonalities between humans and animals. Ahar, nidra, bhaya, maithuna. However, humans, dharmo hitesham, the prerogative and the most unique feature of humans is to follow a spiritual life. And that's what makes them a human being. Otherwise, dharmena hina pashubi samana. If they don't follow a spiritual life, a spiritual culture, there's no difference between humans and animals. In fact, they live like an animal. So somebody may say, Prabhu, but why are we talking about spiritual happiness? Our modern science is so much promising. They have made so much advancement and so forth. All right, let's take a look at the advancement. We agree upon our Western civilization of the Western countries have made incredible scientific and material advancement. They have offered us luxurious cars for comfortable traveling, skyscraper building for comfortable living, and incredible gadgets. Communication have become very easy and so forth. But what are this all this advancement and all this progress has been for? All this progress and advancement has only been focusing on the four commonalities between humans and animals. These all advancement have only tried to improve our sleeping, our eating, our enjoyment and defending. All this scientific and technological advancement actually does not aid or does not help us to gain higher access or higher levels of spiritual pleasure, and does not even acknowledge the ABCD unique features of human beings. All our ability to inquire, all our choices, all our determination are pushed forward into these directions to just somehow enhance our sleeping, eating, enjoying, and defending. So, question may come, are we really happy after all this? Science have given us so much technological advancement and we are also working towards that. Have we really become happy? Statistics don't show like that. If so, then why humans are dissatisfied, full of anxiety, stressed, and depressed? They are so much troubled. Dissatisfied, as I said, if you get something, you're happy for a while, and after a while you become bored of that object. Maybe it's a new car, maybe it's a toy. And today, everyone is in full of anxiety. Coronavirus is enough to give all of us anxiety. And because of the further anxieties, what will happen to my education? When will my schools reopen? When will my college reopen? What about my job? And everyone is so stressed out, so much full of pressure. And after all this thing, after working so hard, still a person doesn't find happiness, he becomes depressed. And that is what is happening around. So, what is the purpose of human being? The human beings have been given higher intelligence. And the purpose of higher intelligence is to find out the cause of our sufferings, to inquire the purpose of life, and to harmonize our life with God and nature so that we can attain eternal happiness. The purpose of human life is not to act and live like an animal, trying to fulfill the seed, sleeping, eating, enjoying, and defending. No, human life means more. And one of the prominent things as a human that we can all do is inquire. And one of the foremost things that all of us can acknowledge and inquire is, despite all the technology, despite all the facilities available to us, why are we still suffering? Why are we faced with so many challenges? And the reason is, before we talk about, why am I suffering? Well, all of us may have our different reasons for suffering. Somebody might have not liked the lunch today cooked, so he might be thinking, oh, I'm so hungry. Somebody might have not gone out for a long time, so he might be feeling choked in the house. And like that, all of us may have different reasons for our problems. Yet, we all face a real problem. What is a real problem? Now, all of us, which means not only you as a humans and I as a humans, in fact, the animals, birds, and every living entities to that extent. And these real problems are not restricted to Hinduism. It is for all living entities, for all humanity. So what is real problem? The real problem has to fulfill three features to be a real problem, which means it should be true for everyone. So what are the conditions? CNN, not the CNN news channel, but what is the meaning of the CNN? The first C stands for, for something to be called as a real problem, it should be common to all. That is C. N means nobody wants it, but you cannot avoid it. And last N is, as I said, nobody can avoid it. The first N is nobody wants it, and the last N is nobody can avoid it. And this is how it's defined as a real problem. So here is my question to all of you. Maybe you can pause for 5 seconds. Can you think of even one problem which is common to every living entity? Let's focus on humans right now, which is common to all humans. Nobody wants it and nobody can avoid it. We are all faced with this problem. Think about one. Bhagavad Gita and Vedas scriptures talk about 7 such real problems. Let's see if you can figure out one such problem. Let's take a look at your chat message. Somebody says lockdown. Okay. A good one. All right. But if you see, I see the name Book Junction, so I don't know who that person is. It's not the case. Still, there are so many countries where the epidemic have not spread. So people are living peacefully. They're still traveling out. We are talking about things which are common to everyone across the globe. So what are those things? And some of you have said rightly, Radhika says death and so forth. Yes. And that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, verse number 8 to 12. He defines what are the real problems. He talks about 4 real problems in this particular set of verses. And he says, one who can perceive birth, death, old age, and disease as real problems is in knowledge. Now, none of us remember the pain that we all went through while appearing in this world. But I'll just make one comment. You remember or not, you can ask your mother, you can ask anyone. All of us, when we were born crying out loud. Now, why would somebody cry? You would only cry when you're in pain. That's good enough to give you a hint that the birth is not a joyful time. Birth is a very painful experience. Old age, growing old, who among all of you or anyone of you wants to grow old? Everyone is scared of growing old. because we become weak, feeble, and so forth. And disease, because all of us are scared of coronavirus. That's the reason all of us are sitting at home. Nobody wants it. It's common to all, and ultimately, death. All these are very, very painful experiences. And that is what Krishna says, that is common. It does not matter you are a Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, or you are a human, or maybe you're an animal. Everyone has it. So apart from these four common problems, there are three other problems which are called as real problems, which Vedic scriptures educate us about. However, your education, the modern education, will never ever talk about it. Because if they talk about it, you will ask, why do I suffer? And they don't want you to ask this question. They just want to put you into an illusion by giving gadgets, by creating artificial sense of entertainment to make you feel, oh, everything is fine, everything is good around me. So three other real life problems or real problems are, which is called as threefold miseries. The first thing is Adi Atmika Klesha. This is the fourth problem. This is the fifth problem. What is Adi Atmika? The problems born because of one's own body and mind, particularly the mind. The mind getting agitated, disturbed. All of us have that experience. And that Kalesha or that problem is said to be Adi Atmika. These days, stress is increasing. In fact, a lot of people are committing suicide. In fact, it is so interesting. All of us, all the human society, have made such a technological advancement, have the best means to fulfill the seed basic needs. Yet humans are committing suicide. You never read in a newspaper that a donkey hanged himself from a tree and died, or somebody's Tommy or Poppy, a pet dog. He got so frustrated from his master, he went and jumped from the 13th floor and committed suicide. Interestingly, humans are doing that. Looks like animals are still comfortable and happy with what is provided to them. So that's an example of the Atmika Klesha. Second, which means the sixth problem, again, which is common to all, nobody wants it and nobody can avoid it, is Adi Bautika, other living entities. All of you have been bitten by a mosquito or an insect, and it really pinches and we scratch. And now, right now, there is a novel virus, which is called as coronavirus, of which everyone is afraid. So like this, there are other living entities, which means any living entity for that reason, humans, animals, insects, and whatnot, can be birds and beasts like that. All of us have issues. Bed bugs is a very serious problem, other living entities. And the seventh real life problem is, which is called as Adhidaivika Kalesha. Now you may think, Prabhu, in Pune, we have never had earthquake, we never had any tornado or hurricane. Well, that's not about it. How many of you had felt Pune is becoming too hot now? It's becoming very hot. You're feeling the hot or the heat outside? How many of you felt the winter was really cold? The moment you become troubled by the external environment, by the nature, that is what called as Kalesha. Even you may be the richest person, still you cannot avoid any of these miseries. You will still have Adhivatika, Adhidaivika, and Adhyatmika Klesha. What to speak about the four: birth, death, old age, and disease. So here, I have a question to all of you. Do you agree that all these seven are real problems? If yes, type in yes. If you say no, I say no. And if you're not sure, say maybe or maybe not. So let's hear from all of you. So that I know all of you are able to understand all this. So we have some kids here. Okay. So I would say kids, you may a little bit, all right, hang on. Some of the subject matter can be going above your head. Let's take an input first from the seniors for whom this program is particularly meant. Okay. So because at least they're able to understand this, because some subject matters needs a little more maturity for that. All right. So you may say, Prabhu, but our science is very promising. I'm pretty sure our science would help us, alleviate the suffering caused by birth, and they would make us immortal one day and will not face death. And they're working very nicely in the medical field and will not have any diseases in the future. And of course, for old age, now they have so many incredible solutions. Even when we grow old, we don't look like old. Well, yes, we do agree. The modern science had made great advancements. and medical science, they have great technology and so forth. Why not? But whatever you say, whatever you talk about, and whatever you think, the science and technology can never stop somebody from becoming old, cannot eradicate disease. In fact, more and more new diseases are being discovered and found now as compared to in the past. And the science have hardly any understanding of life and death. But because they have to give a solution, they have a solution for everything. And similarly, they have a solution for your death, they have a solution for old age. For death, they keep telling you that will protect you in the future, will make you immortal. They don't have a solution. But for some things, they do have a solution, like in old age. For old age, what does science offers? They offer a patch of solution. If when if your hairs are going white, no problem. You use a hair dye. You got wrinkles on your face, get facelift. If you got a back pain, stomach ache, your stomach pain, use painkillers and so forth. But these are a patch of solution. It does not rectify the problem. However, it is Bhagavad Gita which very logically and scientifically introduces us to these seven real problems and also introduces us to the solution to these real problems. First of all, Bhagavad Gita tells us who we are. We are Satchit Ananda. We are eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. We are not supposed to suffer like this. If we can understand our existence, we can understand who we are and our situation, then by taking to the spiritual culture, which acts as a medicine, we can overcome the diseases or the sufferings that are troubling us. And to help you understand this, I'll give you one quick example, which will help you understand how Bhagavad Gita helps us. It's an example of a son of a rich man who was lost in a Kumbh Mela, quote unquote. And because he lost his father when he was young, although he belonged to the richest person on the planet Earth, he doesn't know where his father is, he has forgotten it. And he ended up becoming a beggar on the street. Imagine one of you who you know the father, you're a good friend to him, and you also know the son. And let's say you're driving into Pune and you come across a red light or a traffic signal. On the side of a traffic signal, you see a beggar. And when you see a beggar, you can do three things. You can give him some money, which is what generally everyone do. Gives him some money and the beggar goes away. However, when you look at him, you recognize, oh, this is a son of my friend. He's the son of the richest person. So you can give him money and he'll go away. That's one option. Second thing, what you can do is you can buy clothes. You can arrange for his education because he's a son of a rich man. So it's your responsibility or obligation being a friend to his father that you should provide some facilities. So you can provide education and food and lodging for him. Or the third thing that you can do is that you can ask him to sit in your car and take him to his father. Once the son goes back to the father, who is the richest person, the father will provide for everything. If I ask you among these three options, A, give him some money so he can buy something for himself. B, you give him the food and the clothes and give education. Or C, that you will take him to his father, who is the richest person and who can provide for everything. What will you choose? Which option would you go for? Yes, obviously it is C. We'll go for the C because that's the best thing. You don't have to provide a temporary relief to him by providing for his education. Well, he doesn't even have to study if he goes back to his father because his father is so rich. Maybe he doesn't have to study or work ever for his forever in his life. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita helps in that way. Bhagavad Gita helps us remind us who we are. We are a forgotten or we are a lost son of God who are struggling in this world. And Bhagavad Gita awakens our understanding about our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when that understanding is reawakened, that's the time we begin to experience joy and happiness in our life. Happiness is actually a byproduct of love. Despite everything with us, if we are still lacking satisfaction, it is just because we are disconnected from our Supreme Father. And that is what Srila Prabhupada talked about. And once we revive our relationship with our Supreme Father, that's the time all these kaleshas or real problems that we talked about will not exist for us. And as we reconnect with our Supreme Father, as our love for Him reawakens, that same love would expand for all living entities. And that's the time you can do the best charity. of sharing the love of Godhead with every living entity, either be the human, be the birds, be the beast, or anything. So true happiness lies in reviving our Supreme Lord, lies in reviving our love with Supreme Lord. And that is what the goal of Bhagavad Gita, or the goal of spiritual life. And with that as a background to our discussion for today, now question comes, we can we can understand this whole subject matter from Vedic scriptures because with Bhagavad Gita talks about it. But are Vedas scientific, or is it fiction, or is it mythology? This is what we started our discussion with, the fundamental question. Because if we have to understand our nature, our true nature, we have to understand about the concept of God that can only be understood from Vedic scriptures. So how do we understand Vedas to be scientific and not mythology? Just to give you a history of how Vedas came to be known as mythology, before we get into the subject matter more. Actually, up to 1872, until 1872, our education system in this country was the most advanced education system. Nobody would go uneducated, and that is how education system was in our country. And the education system was free of cost. There was no money charged from the pupil or from the student, and everyone was given education system. What was education? There were gurukuls. So every child would be sent to the Gurukul, and where he would study under the Acharya or the teacher, the Vedic scriptures. However, the Britishers or the Europeans were growing in medical knowledge. So until 1850, there was no formal education in the Western world. It was around 1865 or 1870 when they started a formal education. And when they started a formal education, that's the time Max Muller, who was visiting India, who commented, if you want to rule on this land forever, then we have to break the backbone of this culture. In other words, we have to break the backbone of the civilization. And what was the backbone of our civilization? Was our culture. And our culture, advanced culture based on Vedic education. So Max Muller suggested or recommended, if you want to rule them forever, then make sure that they lose faith in their Vedic literatures. Stop and abolish their Vedic education. Close down Gurukul. Rather introduce our English education system, which was actually based on Christian teachings. The initial teachers who came to India were not teachers, but were actually the priests from the Christian churches. And they came to India to convert people from Vedic culture or Sanatana Dharma to Christianity. And that was the whole idea about it. And that's how, in around 1885, the British government, that time ruling India, passed a law. If anyone studies in Gurukul and graduates from Gurukul, they will not get any job anywhere in the country. And most of the positions that time were under the control of British Empire. So what would parents do? Now, of course, anyone who has to grow up has to earn. So slowly, they could not directly abolish Gurukul because it would have taken to a revolt. So what did they do? They discouraged parents from sending their kids to the Gurukul system. In the next 40 to 50 years, by the time our Britishers left India, by the time the English education system had become established all over India, and Gurukuls have literally dwindled or closed down. Very few Gurukuls remain, and that's the reason today you and I, or most of us, studying in a British education model up to today, have no understanding of the great science and the wisdom given in Vedic scriptures, which was actually, they were the one who took that wisdom from us and they brought us back to us, saying that this is what Christianity teaches about. To give an example, our Vedic culture or Bharat was so rich in technology that until the 18th century, Bharat, the land of Bharat, was the biggest exporter as well as had the biggest ships in the world. We had the best shipping technology in the world. You know, when the first Frenchman, I believe it was an Irishman, I'm missing the name, Columbus went to America, and the other person along with Columbus, who actually wanted to go to America and he ended up coming to India. When he reached to the Macedonian, by the, what is that, Macedonian, it comes in the African coast, the name of this particular city or the island. When he reached there, he was searching for India or the Bharat. And when he reached there, he met a Gujarati by the name of Krishna Das. So this man was very afraid to travel to India because he thought, how would I find India? The ocean is vast. And at that time he was carrying the biggest ship made in Europe. So when he met Krishna Das and he said, I want to go to India, Krishna Das said, yeah, why not? Come along with me, I'll take you. And when he saw the ship of Krishna Das, who was a Gujarati, he was shocked. That ship was 10 times bigger than the biggest ship of that time in Europe. And those biggest ships escorted this person and brought him to India through the border or through the coastline of Gujarat. And I believe all of us in our education system are taught that this person is the founder of India, who discovered India. Anyone remembers what's the name of the person who is given the credit with that he discovered India? I'm somehow missing the name right now. Anyone of you remember this name? Yes, Vasco da Gama, right. It was Vasco da Gama. Thank you. That was the name. Somehow it missed my mind. So that's the whole idea, and that's how slowly and gradually we were taught the Vedic scriptures are not science, it's a mythology. So in 1947, although Britishers left the country, but their education system continued, and that's what we are following today. Even our education system is far much more obsolete than what is being practiced in Western schools. And that's the reason we understand or we think Vedic scriptures to be mythology. So how do we prove the scientific nature of Vedas? To prove that, I'll be taking some FAQs, or I'll be giving out some questions and answers for that. There will be around 15 to 20 questions where I'll be educating you about what is Veda, how did they came into existence, and what are the evidences of the knowledge given in Vedic scriptures, and so forth. But we'll take this discussion tomorrow because the time is already up. It's almost 45 minutes discussion, so I don't want to start today. When we meet tomorrow at 5 o'clock, we'll have a session tomorrow from 5 to 6. At that point of time, I'll do the second part of this subject matter, are Vedas mythology or not? And tomorrow we'll provide you evidences. However, for your reference, I have already shared a PPT with all of you, a document on WhatsApp group, which talks about various sciences and evidences of great science present in Vedic scriptures. And one of the facts that we discussed today from Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita talks about 7 real life problems which you and I all can acknowledge it. With that, I'll pause for today, and when we meet, we'll continue the discussion tomorrow, in which we'll look more in details about what are Vedic literatures, and are they really mythology, or is it a science? So with that, I thank you all for your kind attention. If any one of you have any question, or you want to ask something, you can do so. I would recommend first the seniors for whom this session was meant initially. If they want to ask something, that they can ask. After that, we'll give the chance to the kids from our wisdom snippet group. So we'll give you a chance to unmute yourself. If you want, you can unmute and you can ask a question. Thank you.